it's Peg and Des on
Breaking Bad.
So this is another big episode. I think they're all going to be big episodes. We see the aftermath of Jesse tossing Cash out of the window. We see the immediate aftermath of Walt and Hank's epic garage confrontation. And also we get a little bit of a taste of what's happening with Lydia and the drug business. And we get, big scene with Marie and Skylar about the situation also.
Yes, before we hop into great detail on all of those topics, remember to subscribe to this channel, like our videos, check out our other videos on other shows, and follow us on Twitter at Peg and Des.
All right, so let's start out with the cold open. We see this old man, he's leaving his house 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and he spots a lot of cash on the ground.
Early bird gets the worm. I mean, after he picked up his first batch of cash, he starts looking around and sees another batch of cash,
right,
and just keeps walking through the neighborhood.
And he stumbles upon, this car down a ravine. And I mean, I personally for a second was a little afraid for Jesse.
I thought Jesse had driven his car down into the ravine, and I couldn't quite tell at first if the car had hit a tree, but I was wondering if Jesse was dead or not.
Me too.
We soon realized he isn't. He's on the merry-go-round, and he's chilling while there is a huge stack of whatever's left of $2.5 million in his passenger seat.
Exactly, yeah. So Jesse's mind is not right. Jesse is not in a good place.
Jesse is gone.
He's not in a good place, and I can't help but feel bad for the kid. I can't help but feel bad for him. Then we see probably a second or two after Walt and Hank's big confrontation, they both have the same first thought, and it is call Skylar.
Yes, Walt is panicking to get in touch with Skylar, dialing numbers like crazy, and he can't get her on the phone until he realizes, looking back in his rearview mirror, that Hank is on the phone with her. Peels out of the cul-de-sac to get to Skylar before Hank actually has an opportunity to have a conversation with her.
Right, and Skylar sees, Walt calling.
Oh, she sure does. On a separate phone. She can just look down at it.
Right, but she chooses to take Hank's call.
Right.
And they make a plan to meet up at a diner.
Which was a very interesting scene in and of itself. When Hank first sits down, he's talking to Skylar like she's in victim mode, right?
Yes.
I can help you. I can't believe he's done this to you. How long has he been holding you hostage? Was there physical abuse? You were clearly crying out for help when you were walking through the pool with all your clothes on. So in his mind, there's no possible way that Skylar can be in on the Heisenberg story.
Right. I think that Hank comes to Skylar with two purposes in mind. One is as her brother-in-law to come and help her out of what is clearly a terrible situation for her and her children, who he loves and cares about. And secondly, he figures he can get information that will help him bury Walt, because he is bound and determined to put him in prison. And Walt told him in the last episode, look, my cancer's back. I'm probably going to be dead in 6 months.
Right.
And Hank doesn't care.
Not at all. Not at all, but the thing about the Hank confrontation is I do believe that he does care about Skylar. He does want her to get out of a rough situation, but his overriding hatred for Walt kind of supersedes that, because he tries to give her testimony right there in the diner, and she's visibly uncomfortable with it. She's saying, I don't want to do this right now. I think I might need representation, which any person in a situation like this would need.
Well, listen, that's a first clue in, though. It's like, wait a second.
That's what cops tell people to make them feel badly about getting lawyers.
You need representation? I'm your brother-in-law. I'm trying to help you.
You're still the DEA, though. You're still the DEA, and I'm still caught up in what could be a huge drug case. I need a lawyer of some kind.
Right, because I think that when Skylar goes there, she doesn't know what Hank wants. She knows it can't be good. And then she goes, am I under arrest?
Right.
And so that is when Hank starts to see, wait a second, this situation is not going any kind of a way that I thought it was going to go. And she gets up, she goes, am I under arrest? That was great. And she causes a scene because she wants to get the hell out of there.
Right.
She realizes that he doesn't know anything, he's fishing. and she's like, I need to book out of here.
I think that's why she took Hank's call first, because she wanted to suss out
Right.
how bad the damage was
Yes.
in terms of what does Hank know, so that she can then shape what she does next with Walt.
Right. So we see Walt, and he's in Saul's office, and he's panicking too, right? Because he's realizing Hank is on to me. I got problems up the wazoo, but he's hurt. He's hurt that Skylar didn't take his call, but he has other problems to deal with, namely his huge, money
That storage unit.
They've got to hide that money, and he's got to get rid of it quick. So there's a great scene with Huel and the other Saul henchmen where they lay on the money. I love Huel. Huel's the best. He's an awesome character. And they bring the money to Walt. And I liked the little tip that perhaps Huel and henchmen help themselves to a little bit of the cash, because when they show Walt the barrels, he looks at it and he goes, close enough.
Right. Enough of it is here. I know you took some, but you
Right.
didn't take so much that I have a problem.
Right. And so they're like, can we help you? He's like, no, I got this. Don't you worry about
You
me.
already took enough percentages.
Right, so he heads way out into the desert, and I think it's the same spot where in season 1 they've been cooking meth to begin with in
Yes.
that little trailer, and he proceeds to start burying this money.
In a hole so deep that I didn't think one man could build it alone. I was like, is there anybody else in there with you? Did you bring a hedgehog? I mean, it was ridiculous how huge, just the scope of what he was doing out there. And so when he came home and collapsed, it made all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the hot sun, he's in the hot desert, and he's burying this money, and then he does something really interesting. He has a GPS, he remembers the coordinates, he breaks it, and then he buys a lottery ticket with the coordinates and puts it up on the fridge. Now, I think there's a lot of things that are wrong with this plan. First of all, remember, we see the Walt's house in the future, and it didn't look like there's any refrigerator there. It looked pretty devastated.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, does that lottery ticket survive? Will he ever even be able to retrieve this money?
Right.
I have a feeling he might not. But we'll see that, right? Because the money, and really, the money's important, because the money's the whole reason Walt even got into this.
Right.
He wanted to provide for his family. He knew he was dying of cancer. He'd been a teacher his whole life. He hadn't made any money, and he wanted to be able to provide for his family. So the money isn't just like, okay, here's, I want to live like a king. This is his legacy to his children.
Right.
And so I don't know that storing it in a lottery ticket is the best way to handle that situation, but he does collapse. And remember, he's also walking into the house. He has no idea what Skylar's thinking. He doesn't know if Skylar's called the cops on him, gone with
She
him.
even came out of the bedroom like real shady herself.
Yes.
You saw how she leaned out into the hallway and she was
Yeah.
like, Walt.
Yeah.
Walt. He didn't move for a minute. I mean, everybody was kind of playing around each other. I don't know what you've said to Hank. I don't know if the DEA is in the bedroom.
Right.
I don't, no one knows what the other is doing, but it's clear they're in there by themselves and they have a moment.
Yes. I mean, it's interesting because Skylar, her attitude seems to have changed this season. For a long time, he was basically holding her hostage. He was like, you can't get out of this. I'm dangerous. You're going to do as you're told, and you're going to be quiet. But we've seen a shift in Skylar, and I think it might be some sort of Stockholm syndrome. I don't know. But she's no longer Walt's enemy. She's now in his corner. I don't think it's out of love necessarily.
No.
I think it's, you know what? We've just gone so far down this rabbit hole, and you're almost dead anyway, right? Let's just get through this.
Like, I'm here. I'm already in it.
Right.
We may as well be in it to win it.
Right.
I mean, there's no point in turning back now.
Right.
After so many things have happened.
Right.
So
we start to
It's
see,
ridiculous.
I think, Skylar breaking bad in this episode.
right.
I mean, she's lost her moral compass at this point. She's like, let's just ride this out.
Right.
And we also see this in the conversation with her sister, which I thought was, really intense and a great moment in the show.
Marie comes over to the house. Hank is in the driveway and wants to come inside. Only Marie is allowed to come inside. The two sit down in the bedroom, and Marie has the same type of dialogue that Hank did originally at the diner.
Right.
You know, I know this happened to you, victim, victim, victim. And then she's realizing at some point in the conversation, wait a minute now, you actually know more than you are leading on to know.
And you've known for a lot longer.
Yes, and then Marie starts asking time-based questions.
Yes.
Did you know when Hank got shot? And then Skylar just breaks down.
Yes.
And so at that point, Marie hauls off and slaps the taste out of Skylar's mouth.
Well, again, she's getting that same sense that Hank got. How could you betray me like this?
Right.
How could you look me in the eyes? Your sister. We've been spending all this time together. You've had this going on in your life for however many months.
But your husband has endangered my husband. At this point, it is so personal. My husband could have lost his life behind your husband's foolishness.
Right.
And
you're putting your kids, who, I mean, the kids are, you know, Hank and Marie are very close to Walt and Skylar's children.
Right.
Like, they're extremely close. They love those kids almost like their own. They took those kids in, you know, for a long time. And so she's like, you are endangering those children's lives. You endangering my husband's life. Like, who are you right now?
she even tries to take the baby.
Yes.
Marie goes into the living room and tries to snatch that child. I mean,
Yes.
Hank calms the situation down and says, let the baby stay. Marie ends up leaving. But if Marie was left to her own devices, she would have run out of there with that child in tow.
And I think that when they leave, you see in her eyes what you see in Hank's eyes. A burning commitment to getting Walt.
By any means necessary, you will fall.
Yes.
Like, that is, she
Yes.
she just has she
Yes.
has that same taste that Hank has.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Lydia in the desert.
Yes.
Okay, so Lydia rides out to the desert because there's some problems with the product.
Right.
And she has Todd in tow, whose character is evolving and he's becoming more important to a lot of storylines.
Well, we don't see, do we see Todd immediately? I thought she just shows up, says to Declan, we have a problem.
He wasn't in the car?
I think he was, but I don't think we saw him immediately. I think we just see Lydia confront Declan. She says, I want to see, you know, what you're doing. He takes her down to the pit. She's like, this is a filthy operation. You need to clean this up. And he's basically like, look, you're getting what you're getting.
Right.
Deal with it.
Right.
Except Lydia's like, well, I don't think I will deal with it.
Lydia says, I've got people in the Czech Republic who like my powder. You better get your stuff together.
Right. And when Declan shows no signs of cooperating, then we see her call someone, we don't know who yet. It turns out to be Todd and his Nazi thug uncle.
Oh, I see. So
and
that's when he
friends.
came in. Okay, got it.
Right. And then the next thing we hear a lot of bullets. And then next thing we see is Todd gingerly helping Lydia out, very gentlemanly, out. And everybody's dead. And there's been a change in management.
A change in management. When Lydia was down there, by the way, though, and she was using her phone, I was like, I wonder what cell phone provider she has. Because in my life, that would be a situation where I would not have service.
Seriously. Definitely doesn't have Verizon.
Exactly.
All right, so then when we have the last final episode where we see Jesse's been arrested for, you know, being a lunatic, throwing money out of the car, God knows what else. I mean, they know that's not legal money. And he's being questioned by these two sort of Keystone cops. And then we see Hank shows
says,
up.
I want to talk to him. And then that's when the episode closes.
Right, so we're looking forward to seeing that conversation on next week's episode. All right, so again, please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Twitter at PeganDoes.
Remember to like these videos and catch our other videos also on our YouTube channel.
All right, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.